I'd like to know your perception about the present movement in Kashmir.
I don't know whether this word perception can sufficiently explain what exactly is meant by it. What exactly do you mean by it?
No, what is your viewpoint on the present situation in Kashmir?
Yeah, I see. Yes, the present situation in Kashmir is the result of certain basic factors. Of them, denial of right of self-determination for indefinite period, the repudiation of international agreements by Jawaharlal Nehru Indian authorities all the time, refusal by the Indian authorities to find a solution to the issue. To this is added the fact that Indian authorities never accepted Kashmir as part of India according to their own claim. For what they have done practically in Kashmir can support my contention. They, for example, they have tried to change the demographic complexion over the years by bringing in only militants and settlement there in Kashmir. They have tried their utmost to dilute, their utmost to dilute the religious identity, cultural identity of Kashmiris. And on top of it, they have posted that huge chunk of Indian army in Kashmir. The very fact that they have posted that amount of Indian army in Kashmir is suggestive of the fact that they never believed Kashmir to be an integral part of India. But it was a foreign territory that can be retained only by force. So that they have been demonstrating all around. They know fully well that Pakistan is not in a position to declare war against India. So why have all this army at all? Except that they feared an internal uprising for what they were doing, in order to repression that people were conducting. So this is one aspect you see that the movement of resistance in Kashmir is the entire creation of the Indian government policy that the Indian government has pursued on these long years. The second part of it is that just as India is determined to retain Kashmir by force, so seem the Kashmiris also to be determined to liberate it from the Indian yoke. And quantity-wise, perhaps India can claim that there has been some slowing down of the resistance activity. But quality-wise, it has been there, and India has failed so far in all its machinations to subdue the will of the people. And the Kashmiris, they have waged a relentless war, and their will has been indomitable so far. Now, in this third aspect, if this continues like this, that is the dangerous aspect of the situation. If this continues to be like this, then there are only two alternatives. One is that India attacks Pakistan, or at least attacks Azad Kashmir, if it wants to keep it limited. The area of war, if they want to keep limited, they attack Azad Kashmir. Or if they fail to do so, or if they did it and failed, then there will have to be a negotiated political solution. Or in the third eventuality, perhaps the whole subcontinent might be destroyed as a result of this war. So that is how I look at it. There is no way out except that India agreed to implement the UN resolutions and agreed to concede right of self-determination, which we have envisaged in the partition plan as well as the UN resolutions.
How do you felt the need of this kind of uprising in Kashmir after 4 decades of partition?
You see, as I explained to you just now, that it is purely India who is to blame for all this. The Kashmiris who have been pacifists all these centuries, when they were attacked in their religious identity, when they were attacked in their culture, in their parents, forcible marriages were imposed upon them. And when their demographic complexion was being changed, then naturally the younger generation voted, and they were also affected by the contemporary freedom movements like in Afghanistan next door. So all these things put together, they caused this uprising in Kashmir. And then stability of Pakistan, the internal and military stability of Pakistan under the leadership of late General Haq was yet another motivating force for the Kashmiris, because Pakistan, of course, is their mainstay. If Pakistan is strong, then Kashmir, one day or the other, will have to be liberated. And if Pakistan goes weak, then no liberation movement can really be generated there. So that way, the movement took off, influenced by all these things, these elements we have today.
Do your government help the militant movement militarily also?
My government, I wish it could do that. I wish I was in a position to lend full military and material support to the freedom fighters. But we are not in a position to do that, unfortunately. On the other hand, we lend them our full moral and political support. And the land of Azad Kashmir is their land, and they can use it anywhere they like. This is what we have done. We have housed the refugees, no doubt. But we've not been able to do anything beyond that.
What are the hurdles for not granting this militarily and other kinds of support?
The basic hurdle is that the Kashmir movement is not a movement in isolation. It is a movement which has become global. It has acquired global dimensions. And we resorted to lending military support. We in the first instance, we don't have sufficient material to do that. And in order to acquire sufficient material, it is not easy for us to undertake that sort of adventure. Therefore, we have militarily kept out of it. But the youngsters in our Kashmir are becoming restive, becoming impatient, and I see the danger of increasing involvement of Azad Kashmir in the Kashmir struggle, and that may lead inter alia to the increasing involvement by people in Punjab and people in frontier and people in Afghanistan and elsewhere. So that is one of the dangers which is quite visible. Otherwise, for your question, what are the impediments? There is not one impediment and many. Therefore, whatever we did in Azad Kashmir, it could provide an excuse to India to go and attack Pakistan. So that is yet another aspect which we have to look into ourselves. Because I believe, I don't believe in a military solution of this. I believe in a political solution. Therefore, we mentally support the militant activity in Kashmir, because it is that activity which has reoriented the Kashmir issue with that full force. But in the ultimate eventuality, it will have to be a political issue, political settlement. And if I were to join into this, then perhaps political settlement would be ruled out, and militarily it will be only disastrous if we pursue it that way.
While discussing these problems which are being faced by you for not involving yourself, your government, you are not talking of Pakistan.
Militarily.
You are not. You are talking of Azad Kashmir. Do you think that Azad Kashmir is separate than Pakistan.
You see, Azad Kashmir is not part of Pakistan, not constitutionally part of Pakistan, but we are so contiguous with Pakistan, 1400 kilometers. And not only the landmass, but culture, language, religion. So much to share in common with Pakistan that we cannot separate ourselves. And we cannot jeopardize the interest of Pakistan for that matter. If we did that, then we will be worse off than the Palestinians who jeopardize the interest of some of the other countries and ultimately landed themselves in a very serious trouble. So we won't do that.
It is alleged that you have annexed a large part of this JLK to Pakistan.
No part, not an inch of Kashmir has been annexed to Pakistan. Not an inch.
While discussing these problems, don't you think that the movement started, armed struggle started in a premature stage?
The armed struggles, it is only history which can decide whether the armed struggle was started in time or it was out of time or out of step. We started the armed struggle in Azad Kashmir in August 47. And everybody then said that it was premature, should not have been done. But then when we conquered 32,000 square miles of area, everybody said that it was quite right and that is what should have been done. So it's only history which will give the verdict as to what should have been done. But I feel that Kashmiris had no alternative, no choice. This movement had to stop.
No, the movement started in 89 in Kashmir.
Yes.
And we feel there's a lot of change in the morale and in the mood of people now. What do you say about that?
You see, this change has to come. This change has got to come, and but it will be met, of course, because the Indian atrocities and Indian brutality will keep the movement alive in the hearts and minds of the people. And India is compelled to continue with that brutality. So therefore, as long as they continue, there will be retaliation and people will resist and the movement will go on. So whether there is temporary null in the movement or slowing down the movement, quality-wise, the quality will remain on the ground.
People alleged in India that it is Azad Kashmir and Pakistan who is militarily supporting Kashmir. But you said that we are not supporting
I wish we could support them militarily. If we were to support them militarily, situation in Kashmir would be totally different. We are basically militants, and the quality of fight would have been altogether different. Involvement would have been far, far bigger than what can be visualized at the moment. And even if we were to support the movement, for example, militarily, why should we stop the Afghani and Pathans from joining in the movement? Who is stopping them? It's only the government of Pakistan which is stopping them. Otherwise, if Pakistan government was only to connive at it, basically, hundreds and thousands of Afghani would have rushed into Kashmir and the entire complexion of the movement would be different. So it is not right to allege Pakistan, to level that allegation against Pakistan.
So you think that only Kashmirians should fight at their own militarily?
Well, as I told you, see, it is nobody's verdict. It is the verdict of the people themselves. When you are under repression, when we were under repression, we did the same. And anybody under repression would do the same. And the Kashmiris certainly will fight. They have the will to fight. And whosoever can support them will perhaps support them.
Is it possible for them to fight a mighty force like
Yes,
India?
yes, it is possible because India is also breaking up. India is also not that strong. If the Kashmiris can only sustain that movement for another little while, Indians will have no way out to deal with this.
And do you propose any time period?
Well, the time could come at any time. If the Americans today withdraw their support, India can come down in a week's time to negotiate and sit on the table. So international pressure is also mounting. Economic pressure on India is also mounting. And some unpredictable things are happening. Although they are predictable in the futuristic